Here are my 2 top cold call openers that convert at 40%. My first one is called the PLA. It stands for pleasant, laughing, and arms up, and I'll walk you through it. So let's say I'm calling Sally. Hi Sally, thanks for taking my call. Hey look, I know I'm catching you on the blue here. However, do you have a few moments to chat? The reason I love that is because it opens up the conversation, you get a quick laugh out of it, and people aren't expecting it because you're not announcing your name. So it's a pattern interrupt. The second one that I want to introduce is straight to the point, not a permission-based opener, and a little bit different. So let's say I'm calling Sally again, because maybe she hung up on me because she didn't like the last one. So I would say, hi Sally, you don't know me, I don't know you, but the reason for my call is. And then I go right into it. The reason that works is because people crave reasons on why or why not you're calling them. And it also dispels immediately on who are you? I just said, hey, look, you don't know me, so let's go into it, and I have a reason to do that.
Yeah, I've experimented with quite a few. I've experimented with the whole, I'll be honest, this is a sales call, so I don't know if you want to throw your phone out the window, but to be perfectly honest, I just go, hey, it's Sam calling from Cognism, how have you been? And then I will always try and leverage either like a conversation I had with their colleague or a previous conversation, just so it's not so cold and there's some element of warmness to it.
Just keep it simple. My name, where I'm calling from. Hi, my name is Abiyash, calling from Cognism, and I keep it simple like that. I go silent. I wait for them to say something. That allows me to just understand, what mood they're in today, or what I might have to mirror later on in the conversation. Typically, they will say, "Who's this?" At which point I say, "Look, full disclosure, we've not actually spoken before." I might even say, "Look, this is in fact a B2B cold call." Either say, "Do you want to hang up?" or "Let me have 30 seconds." Or if I do have some personalization, that's where I'd enter a personalization and say, "Look, we've not spoken before, but I spoke to Ben, I spoke to your team. Here's the context. Can I grab half a minute to explain?"
So I look at their LinkedIn profile and look at 2 sections. One is the about section. Typically, there's information in there that you can grab, that you can use at the beginning of the call because they wrote that section. So it's gonna immediately draw them in. And the second thing I look at is their recommendations. This is a hidden section on LinkedIn that nobody looks at, and it has all the things that they have been recommended for, what people like them for. So you can use the words that other colleagues have used about them to then bring that to the conversation to immediately build rapport.
I think because it's slightly different in the UK, it might, not as receptive to cold calls necessarily. I'll try if I can build some sort of rapport over a LinkedIn message, whether that be like, have you been to that restaurant in your city, or mention a previous job they had. But on cold calling, I'll just try my best, absolute best, to just try and make them laugh and just try and have quite a casual approach and like a casual-ish conversation.
I think it's good to perhaps say their name, which is quite important, just to create a bit of familiarity. Ask them how their day's going. If they've just come back from holiday, you tend to kind of write notes on your sketch pad. If they've gone on holiday, you can ask them how their holiday's been. And quite a bit of mirroring is quite good. You can forget to do that sometimes, but just repeating what they've said, make them feel heard, sympathise with their situation. That obviously we're talking to a lot of people that deal with challenges every day, so being able to understand where they're coming from and things like that is good for kind of relationship building.
This is the most tricky objection that I see that most reps in the States deal with, which is, oh, we're already using someone, or we do this in-house. So the framework that I like to use to solve or handle this objection is the like and improve method. So when someone says, hey, we're already using this type of competitor, we're already using this, tell them, okay, what do you like about this? The reason we ask that question is we want to get them in a positive state. We don't want to have them in a negative state, and we want them to explain why they like it so far. So then we can ask the more important question, which is, how would you like to see that improved? So now that we have them in a state of telling them what they liked, we now can get to tell them what they like to improve. And when they tell us what they like to improve, then that's where we can fill in our solution to figure out if it's a fit or not.
When I get the meeting objection, which is probably the most common one, I always say, no problem at all. Is it worth me just explaining why I'm calling in 30 seconds? And if it makes sense to speak further, we can. If not, I'll never call you again. And that works well for me.
So yeah, one common objection is that I'm in a meeting. What I usually say is, look, I've got the worst habit to call at the worst times. When might be a good time for me to give you a call back? Just to get a little chuckle out of them and just leave it on a good note, get a time to call back and then follow up straight after.
I'm an 8.8 when it comes to being direct, but I used to be a 5, and I'll tell you what changed. So I used to work with John Barrows, who is the most direct person that I know out of Boston, 10 out of 10. And he told me that you don't have to be rude to be direct. Direct is how you get the best answers. So when I'm doing cold calls, I like to get straight to the point because I don't want to be in a land of confusion, mistiness, etc. I want to know exactly where we stand so that I can be the best salesperson for you and also the client can give me the right answers.
I think it's okay to be quite direct, but also try and make sure that it's human as well. It can be quite easy to sound like you're reading off a script or being a bit robotic. So I think being direct in terms of like the reason why you're calling them, just so they aren't confused as to who you are and what you're doing. And then from there, they tend to know who we are, have an idea of what we provide. So just making sure that you're clear in your approach, whilst also making sure that you're building that rapport with them and gaining that trust.
I'm pretty direct. Like if I've understood the situation from the team and there's pains there, and I've even had a referral, or if I haven't had a referral but I understand they're probably the right person, I'll tell them exactly the feedback that I've had and sort of get straight to the point. And then I normally try and work on like personality, like building a rapport a little bit after, because you're not trying to waste their time, you're trying to get to the point quick. So that's what I do.
Outbound is getting more and more difficult, and the data even shows that it takes 16 touch points to get in front of someone. So out of all those touch points, I believe 5 cold calls are sufficient to get in front of the prospect. Now, when you do these cold calls, typically for the United States, you have more mobile data, and that's how you're gonna get in front of people. So I always recommend 2 out of the 5 calls should be a voicemail. The rest should be a ghost call, which effectively means you're just making the call, trying to get in front of someone to book that meeting. And I would also make sure, this is an extremely important tip, is when you are making these calls, make sure to somehow document if it is a direct dial, so you can focus on making those direct dials faster than having to go through the phone tree.
That ranges massively. Sometimes I'll pick up the phone and call them once, and you might be lucky enough to have a conversation or book a meeting. Sometimes it takes you like maybe 10 touch points. Maybe you're going to send a few emails, a few LinkedIn messages, even a video, and then a few calls. It just completely depends on if the person sort of like refers back to emails, LinkedIn or mobile. It's just whatever channel they use the most. So sometimes 1, sometimes 10.
Oh yeah, again, very situation dependent. Sometimes they can take months. Sometimes it's literally one time on the phone. So I think it's situation dependent on either the person or their processes. So I think, it's very, very dependent. It could be 4 or 5 on different methods, or sometimes it could literally just be from the first call.